Good morning again and welcome. My name is Joe Buonanata from the Connecticut Green Bank's Residential Programs team. On behalf of my colleagues here at the Green Bank, thank you for joining our quarterly Stakeholder webinar. Over the next hour, we look forward to giving you an update on the many exciting things going on at the Green Bank. We're also eager to hear any questions you might have for us. All of the attendees are set in listen-only mode, so please use the chat box on the GoToMeeting taskbar to type any questions. We'll do our best to address each question at the end of the presentation or follow up with you directly afterwards. We are recording this webinar and we'll email the slides and audio recording to all who have registered within the next week. Now it's my pleasure to introduce our two speakers this morning, Brian Garcia, President and CEO, and Carrie O'Neill, Vice President of Residential Financing Programs here at the Green Bank. Brian and Carrie, I'll turn it over to you.
All right, great. Thank you, Joe. Andrea, thank you for getting us all lined up here this morning. I want to apologize to everybody for our March 14th snowstorm. Us non-essential employees here in the state of Connecticut weren't required to report to work on that snow day. So forgive us for that webinar and resetting the date to today. Welcome, Carrie, to our webinar here.
Thanks for having me.
So we are looking forward to providing an update in the following areas. You know, we've historically talked a lot about how our sectors are doing, so we're going to talk a little bit about infrastructure. Carrie's going to give a great update on what we're doing on the residential sector with a real strong focus on multifamily, single family. We're also going to do an update on commercial, industrial, and institutional. And then, of course, there are some other news that we'd like to talk a little bit about at the tail end of the webinar. So why don't we start off with infrastructure. So just real quickly at a high level, what we're talking about here is residential solar PV in Connecticut. So we are looking at here the progress of installed costs for residential solar in Connecticut, the percent of installed costs that are coming from state subsidy versus the rest, how we are deploying more installed capacity on homes over time. One of the things that you're seeing here is that the subsidy has come down by over 80% in Connecticut since 2012. That's great because we're also seeing an associated rise in deployment. So the decoupling of subsidies with market growth is what we're trying to demonstrate by attracting more private investment in our various financing programs in and across the state of Connecticut. Also, for those of you who are following residential solar in Connecticut, we manage what's called a solar home renewable energy credit. This is essentially for the incentive we provide to homeowners. For that incentive, we retain the rights to the renewable energy credit. We've been working through a regulatory process with our electric distribution companies, United Illuminating and Eversource, who have been really great through this process. We've been able to get a master purchase agreement approved through that regulatory process so that the utilities will be purchasing these renewable energy credits from us over the course of the next 15 years. That allows us to recover the incentives that we're providing to the households up front. So a really exciting program on that. We've also been successful on the aggregation front. So when you look at the 20,000, 22,000 projects, residential projects across the state, you can imagine that each of those households has a real-time data measurement system. All that information feeds into a central portal that we have. We've been able to work closely with the Public Utility Regulatory Authority, PURA, here in Connecticut, and aggregate all of those systems into one aggregation for these renewable energy credits. So a bit of a policy innovation there. Look forward to having more conversations with folks later on that. Just looking at where all of this may be heading when we think about a world in the future where net metering policy may or may not exist, but where you think about how homeowners can share the benefits of solar PV with the rest of the grid infrastructure. We're really focused on developing what we call the sustained orderly process for the residential solar PV market in Connecticut. And that is to say that when the incentives that we manage are completed, when we deploy 300 megawatts of residential solar in Connecticut, it is our desire that the industry will be in a strong footing and be able to maintain itself in perpetuity, supporting households going forward. So one of the things that we've been working on more recently is working really closely with our utility colleagues to align the energy efficiency programs with solar PV. So we're excited to see more energy audits going in. We are providing financing, which Carrie will talk about on the efficiency side, that will help them finance deeper energy efficiency improvements. But we're also now looking at the future. Here in Connecticut, we've got a Global Warming Solutions Act to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 80% by 2050. In order to get there, two of the key sectors are going to be removing the emissions from the transportation sector, so trying to get to zero emission vehicles, and secondly, trying to move away from fossil fuel for how we heat our buildings, so how we get to renewable heating and cooling. So our future iterations of our solar PV program coming out in the coming months will look at how we can support renewable heating and cooling by providing more solar PV to provide the electricity for those units, as well as electric vehicles. We're also looking at battery storage, so stay tuned for that. Again, the idea here is to be able to store solar PV and dispatch the power to help improve the overall quality and reliability of the grid. So pretty excited. Stay tuned. Within a month to 2 months' time, you'll see us roll out a series of programs here to support zero-emission heating and cooling and zero-emission vehicles tied to solar PV. So with that, I'm going to transition to Carrie O'Neill, who's going to walk us through a residential update with a focus on LMI.
Thanks, Brian, and thank you everybody for having me today. So I am going to focus on some of what's going on our low to moderate income solar initiatives as I'm giving this update. And so let me just piggyback off of what Brian was talking about in terms of he gave the update on residential solar incentives. So just to put it in context, I know we've showed this slide before, but to give you an update, we think we have about 660,000 homes that are right for solar in the state. We've got about a 3% penetration rate right now, 23,000 homes. You've seen it grow rapidly. About 18,000 of those homes have come in the last three and a half years, right? It's growing very, very rapidly. One of the things I'm most excited about is we, and our team, we track the penetration rate in our lower income census tracts. And we have seen since just in the last few years a 2,800% increase in the penetration rate in our lower income census tracts. We're really excited about this, about 3,400 homes. So for those of you who want to geek out on the numbers and where those 3,400 homes are, by low income we mean census tracts that are at 80% area median income or lower. When we think of moderate income, we look at 100% median income or lower. So those 3,400 is the 1,512 plus the 2,263, so for those who are trying to follow the bouncing ball there. The other thing we look at is how we get to and start to achieve parity to our upper income bands. And we're not there yet. We still have a lot of work to do. But I will point out we started measuring this gap, if you will. In 2014 is when we started to measure the gap. And down at the bottom, you can see, like in our lowest income band, less than 60% AMI, we needed a 10x increase to reach parity. And right now, we need a 3.2 times increase to reach parity. And that just speaks to the attention that we've been drawing to the opportunity to serve our lower and moderate income customers in Connecticut with solar solutions. We've been messaging this out to our solar installer community, pointing out that in our state, when you're low income, it does not necessarily mean you've got poor credit. When you're upper income, it does not necessarily mean you've got great credit. Therefore, you've got great opportunities in lower income census tracts. Don't stay away from those neighborhoods. And we have seen the benefits of that message. We've been out there with that message for 2.5, 3 years now. And when we look at that penetration that we've seen in these lower income bands, the top 5 companies that are drawing or that are making this happen, only one of those companies is taking advantage of our tiered incentive for low to moderate income homeowners, where they have to actually do an income screen to take advantage of that higher income or higher incentive. So we're really we're proud of this. But we also recognize we have a lot of work to do to bring this into parity and to drive drive more improvement in energy burden reduction for our lower income citizens. So let me just keep going here. And so on the one company that is taking advantage of our LMI tiered incentive, that is Posigen. I know we've spoken about Posigen in the last several updates, but to give you an update on where Posigen is currently, recall Posigen is offering a solar lease that is coupled with an energy efficiency solution. They sit on top of the Home Energy Solutions and Home Energy Solutions income eligible product or solution set, so everyone who goes through their program gets HES. And then on top of that has the opportunity to go even deeper with energy efficiency. So a couple of stats, 7 out of 10 folks who are going solar with them are taking advantage of that, are low income, taking advantage of that LMI incentive. And then 2/3 of the households that are going solar are going deeper with that $10 a month energy savings agreement. So we're really excited to see so much efficiency being paired with solar and with homes that really need it most, the families that need it most. We've got community campaigns going on in several different locations in the state. And just an update on the jobs that have been created. So far, they've hired 62 folks in the state of Connecticut. So that's a great story there. By the way, that tiered incentive is available to any other third-party financier who'd like to take advantage of it. We'd welcome others taking advantage of it. Contact me if you're interested in that. Next, want to give an update on the Smarty loan program. Smarty had a rocking fourth quarter, biggest quarter ever for Smarty, which was amazing to see. And so far we've financed just over $18 million in the product. And remember, in this product, that's not Green Bank capital, that's all local capital. So we have 11 lenders in the program. So this is the capital of our 4 credit unions, our community banks who are participating, and our 1 CDFI Capital for Change. So we're really proud of this program and proud of the progress that it's making. Some great news on expanding the credit bucket for this program. We now have 2 lenders, Capital for Change and Nutmeg State Federal Credit Union, who are accepting applicants down to a 580 FICO. So this is a really big deal. The typical bucket is 640 and above, and so they have expanded down to 580. Also want folks to be aware that we have our first lender, Nutmeg, who on exception will look at good credits and look at extending that loan term out to 15 or 20 years. This is an unsecured loan product. That's pretty cool. We're really excited about that. Of course, we have our special offers still available. Since this is a solar update, I'll mention that our most popular bundles continue to be our solar bundles. And we also give credit for folks who have done any qualifying measure in our bundles in the past 5 years. You can still get the lower rate if you kind of keep going down your path. So if you've gone solar in the past year, 2, 3 years, now you want to add in insulation or heat pump technology, heat pump water heater, you can qualify for that low bundle rate. I will mention, stay tuned over the next month or 2. We are about to get very aggressive on our special offer rates. So stay tuned for details on that, and we will share breaking news on that when we're ready. Turning our attention to multifamily. Multifamily has been, we've been on the road. The team, Kim Stevenson, John D'Agostino, have been on the road, it feels like for a year, 2 years now, out talking to folks about our suite of programs available for multifamily, and we're really starting to see the results now of that. We have benchmarking available out in the market, free benchmarking, and so right now, we're up to 14% of the units, I think, we said 10, we're up to 14% of the units that are benchmarked. In the pre-development loans, we have 2 flavors of our pre-development loan. We have a high-touch, shepherding through a very prescribed process. We call it the Sherpa loan with a partner, New Ecology. And then we have another flavor called the Navigator loan, where owners can work with their own service providers. And we're really starting to see this program take off where owners can work with service providers and really get a good work scope done and understand everything they need to do from design, engineering, audit work, and then go for the construction or term financing. And the way in which we've designed this program is it de-risks that work and just can be a costly work for owners. And so we structured it in a way so that now there's a solution to pay for this work. And then on the term loan side, we are up to about $18 million now in term loans. And this is through a variety of products. We've got some solar financing solutions here. We've got an unsecured product through Capital for Change called the Lime Loan. And we have some custom financing products that we run through the Housing Development Fund using some of our MacArthur program-related investment money. So we have a variety of term options here. So we're just really pleased to see the kind of emerging growth. The pipeline here is quite strong. And we're seeing some very large projects that are in the early stages of development. Anyone who works in multifamily and affordable multifamily knows these can be long timelines. Some of the projects that have just recently closed have been in our pipeline and in development for up to 3 years, I want to say. But check out our website, click on the homepage for multifamily programs, and you'll see all of our resources available there. One thing I did just want to mention on the solar side, and to give a sense of where we're doing solar around the state on affordable multifamily, we've done a great partnership with CHAPA on solar on housing authorities. You can see some of the towns that have taken, or communities that have taken advantage of that. And then Capital for Change on the Lime Loan. We've seen both efficiency loans as well as solar projects. It's about half and half, I want to say, but I just mentioned some of the communities here. What I love about seeing these communities is it's all over the state, all sizes of communities. So it's really great to see this. We're really excited about this. Just some other updates. I think we did a webinar, I think a month or so ago. We are supporting deep shared clean energy facilities pilots with both financing for developers as well as support in helping to meet the low income or low to moderate income subscriber requirement. We have a bunch of market analysis tools available for that. And so if anyone wants more information about that, there's a link there for that. We also have taken the Posigen customer base and worked with Posigen and marketing agency to do a Nielsen customer segmentation analysis on Posigen's customer base. And we're going to make that available to the market. We're actually going to make it available to the country, but we'll make it available to the Connecticut market too. We should have that out. We're hoping to have that out in the next 4 to 6 weeks. And we'll promote a webinar on that and get that out to folks. So anyone in the community solar or in the solar area may want to take advantage of that. You can literally pick up those segmentation names and go by direct mail list if you're interested in taking advantage of that. Another great announcement I wanted to share, wonderful nonprofit, Grid Alternatives. They've been active in California and a couple of other states. They've entered our market, and their model is to couple nonprofit workforce development and volunteer builds on solar serving low to moderate income renters. And they're doing their first project here in Connecticut with New Neighborhoods, Inc. in Norwalk. They're in construction now, and I think at the end of April, there should be a big kind of unveiling of that. But it's a really, really cool model. They're working with, I want to say it's the New Haven, I should know this. I have a note on this. Let's see. The New Haven Job Corps. To provide workforce development opportunities there. So it's just a great organization, great model. We're so happy to have them in our state. And then also CHAPA Solarize, really successful in round one. We have our next round of projects being solicited right now. And then last update, I just wanted to mention, so building off of the wonderful MacArthur program-related investment that we were able to bring into the state, and that's being administered with a Housing Development Fund. We were lucky enough to be selected as one of 11 recipients of a program-related investment through Kresge Community Finance for a solar and storage model, the only energy PRI that was selected. So this is really, really cool. It's pretty cutting edge. So this is all about resilient solar and storage on multifamily housing and other community assets, community centers that are going to serve low-income communities in coastal and urban Connecticut communities. We have a lot of work to do to figure out what this model looks like, what are the economics, but it's just wonderful to have a partner like Kresge, to have kind of the confidence in us, and to work with our partners and to help to try to figure this out, because it's definitely needed in our market. So stay tuned for more details about that. We're very, very excited and honored to have that. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Brian. Look forward to your questions later.
Carrie, thank you. That was very thorough and very exciting. Very cool. Great to hear all the progress being made on the residential sector funds. Okay, so changing gears here a little bit, I'm gonna provide an update on our commercial, industrial, and institutional sector. And of course, I'll start off with where we are on commercial property assessed clean energy. So as everyone knows, towns can opt in to allowing a CPACE benefit assessment to help finance clean energy improvements for commercial and industrial customers. We currently have 126 of our 169 cities and towns across the state that have voluntarily adopted CPACE. Those towns represent over 95% of all commercial and industrial buildings. So Connecticut is open for business when it comes to CPACE. We're also seeing a number of contractors using CPACE as a vehicle to finance clean energy improvements for commercial and industrial properties. CPACE can also be used for multifamily and nonprofits as well. So it's great to see our local contractor base taking advantage of the affordable, easy to access, low-cost capital through CPACE. Demand is growing. We're near our 200th application into the CPACE program, but what's more exciting is we are about to cross the $100 million threshold in terms of closed CPACE projects. So really, really cool. When you think about how far we've come from initially using 100% RGGI cap and trade allowance proceeds to create the first securitization of CPACE projects, which were purchased by Clean Fund, to then more recently our partnership, our $100 million partnership with Hannon Armstrong. It's great to see how this program has made progress over the years. All shapes and sizes of projects are being financed, from the smallest transaction, the $30,000 transaction. I believe this is more efficient boilers in a church, to very large transactions, major upgrades, building upgrades, envelopes, combined heat and power systems. So they come in all shapes and sizes. In terms of who's taking advantage of it, what's great to see is that the manufacturing sector here in Connecticut is taking advantage of CPACE. So we see a large volume of industrial customers. And overwhelmingly, we're seeing CPACE be used to finance renewable energy, which is great. But we're also seeing about 40% of all these projects include energy efficiency. So it's important that we see all clean energy improvements, energy efficiency and renewable energy working together through CPACE. As I was alluding to, the total capital invested over time with respect to the proportion of public funds from the Connecticut Green Bank versus private funds we've moved to more leverage, which is great. This is the Green Bank model, right? Our focus is to attract and deploy more private investment into Connecticut's clean energy economy. And with CPACE, again, we started with RGGI allowance proceeds, and now for every $1 of investment we put into a transaction, Hannon Armstrong will put in $9. So you're starting to see the transition from public to private funding, which is really, really exciting and what we're trying to do. So along with the nearly $100 million of closed transactions, we see the end users benefiting from nearly $200 million of energy cost savings over the life of those projects, nearly 20 megawatts of clean energy deployed, and of course the associated greenhouse gas reductions and jobs that get created as we see more and more clean energy improvements getting done across the state. So really, really exciting news on the CPACE front. We've had a really successful Energy on the Line campaign with our partner, the Connecticut Department of Economic and Community Development, through a manufacturing innovation fund. We offer what is equivalent to a 1% interest rate reduction to participate in Energy on the Line. This is focused on manufacturers, again, to help them lower their energy expenses. If we can help them do that, of course, we all know that goes directly to the bottom line, allows them to reinvest that net income into their business, their employees, and their communities. So we have so far supported $1 million in energy upgrades through the project, but we have a pipeline of 10 to 15 more projects that are coming in, and we can use more. So if you're out there and you've got manufacturing end users who want to finance clean energy improvements, give us a call. We'd be happy to work with you on that. So I don't think we've publicly announced it yet, as you know, we're somewhat doing it now, but we do have a partnership with Onyx. You might recall that back in 2013, when we launched our second CT solar lease in partnership with U.S. Bank, Key Bank, and Webster Bank. This was a $75 million fund that financed residential and commercial solar leases. This program received a State Leadership in Clean Energy Award from the Clean Energy States Alliance, specifically focused on the commercial side of that structure. So what our team went out and did was, recognizing that this was an innovation in that we were trying to open the market for non-credit quality end users, non-AAA credits, and by combining CPACE in with a lease structure, we were able to deliver on this new model. So we issued an RFP. We discovered Onyx out there, which was great. They've, of course, got ample tax equity capacity through 2018. And this program really is going to provide a vehicle for our local installers to have access to lease financing, which is great. But it's also going to allow them to plan for growth. So if they're considering expanding outside of Connecticut and across the region, Onyx will be there right there with them, providing them the access to capital for their end-use consumers. So we're very excited by this partnership with Onyx. As I mentioned, the opportunity of incorporating CPACE to secure PPAs into the solution is a part of this overall product. So we're excited to see it. For those of you who are capital structure wonks, I won't go into too much detail, but you can refer back to this slide. I think the takeaway here between our two lease structures is that we learned a lot from SL2. We took the best of what we thought was replicable and scalable, and we essentially identified a partner out in the market who is willing to put in more private money to support the expansion of capital for our local installers. I think that's kind of it in a nutshell with regards to our transition. But the team is working really closely now with Onyx and our local contractors, and I'm starting to see and close projects coming through this facility. So great to see this innovation coming into the market. And again, this expanded access to private investment, very, very important as we help local installers grow their companies and as we help end-use consumers lower their energy burden through solar PV deployment. I think this is the last CI&I slide. So as many of you know, Connecticut is widely considered the fuel cell state. We have several domestic manufacturers of fuel cells here in the state, Fuel Cell Energy, we've got Doosan Energy, we've got Proton on site. But we recently approved the financing of a 3.7 megawatt fuel cell in Danbury, Connecticut. We are financing a new high efficiency fuel cell technology. So this is something Fuel Cell Energy is rolling out. We're excited by it. It's going to provide more power. It's going to reduce more emissions and deliver all the things that we want to see. You know, more jobs manufacturing the technology in Connecticut. Contributions to local economic development through property taxes and sales taxes. So all the things that we want to see coming from clean energy deployment, including manufacturing. Very, very exciting. What's unique about this deal is that this is a merchant project. So there are no fixed contracts for wholesale electric power, RECs for capacity payments. So this is a really new effort for us to try to understand how we can use green bank tools for merchant projects. The team has really innovated here. Lots to learn. This is risky for us, but we feel is worth the investment in terms of supporting a local technology, and it's our hope that we can continue to identify projects like this and learn about opportunities to finance fuel cell deployment. So we're going to just kind of wrap it up here with some other news items, and just want to start off with just an overview. This is kind of an overview. Carrie was alluding to a lot of these different things that we've got going on with the Smarty loan. We've got the $75 million residential solar, commercial solar fund that I talked about with U.S. Bank, Key Bank, and Webster Bank. We've got a number of just different things going on here. The Clean Fund and Hannon Armstrong, as I was alluding to, through CPACE. You've got the $30 million securitization with Clean Fund, the $50 to $100 million partnership with Hannon Armstrong to provide capital for commercial property assessed clean energy. But what's really, really exciting that we're starting to see happen with the Green Bank movement is as we've been able to demonstrate strong results, not only in terms of creating jobs, deploying clean energy, reducing energy burden on households and businesses, but also returns for our investment partners. Carrie didn't mention the default rates on our portfolios. I mean, they are, knock on wood, like really, really low. So what's great to see here is that we're now starting to see foundations like MacArthur, foundations like Kresge, look at us and look at our balance sheet position and say, we are willing to invest in the Green Bank because of what they are doing and the results that they're delivering. Stay tuned. We are probably months away, not too far off, from announcing a partnership with a major national global bank. And this for us is really, if I had to say, it's kind of Green Bank 2.0. It's where the private investors see an opportunity of partnering with the public sector to advance clean energy deployment. So stay tuned for that. It's coming, and you'll be the first to know when we announce it. We are actively in the midst of a legislative session here in the state of Connecticut. Here are the real high-level 6 issues that we're focusing on. CPACE, we're always kind of year to year identifying opportunities to continue to improve our CPACE statute. I think big picture here, looking at CPACE for new construction is an opportunity for us. There are a couple fuel cell bills out there intended to support the deployment of 10 megawatts of fuel cells administered through our Public Utility Regulatory Authority. RGGI, we are trying to see if we can get the definition of the use of RGGI allowance proceeds for the Connecticut Green Bank to be broadened. Currently, we can use RGGI funds for Class 1 renewable energy projects, but we would like to see us be able to use RGGI funds for zero-emission vehicles, renewable heating and cooling. So we've got an effort out there working with DEEP to try to help us redefine what we can use RGGI allowance proceeds for. Our PACE, we've been at this for a couple of years. We believe that we've got the secret sauce to PACE, CPACE, and we want to apply that to the residential sector by being a statewide administrator of our PACE and helping to be an intermediary to attracting private investment into our state and helping households lower their energy burden. The RPS, there are several RPS bills proposing an increase in the state RPS. I think the one that comes to mind is 40% by 2040, but a number of other efforts to push that even higher. Of course, as I mentioned earlier, we've got the Global Warming Solutions Act target of 80% reductions of greenhouse gas emissions from 2001 levels by 2050. And then the ZREC LREC. There are a number of bills out there to extend the ZREC LREC program, which has been around for the last 5 years. I just saw an announcement recently from Eversource. So if you are a contractor out there, you should know that the proposal process is now open for you to submit your ZREC LREC projects in. So get those projects in, keep those incentive requirements down. All right, so new board members. We've got 2 new board members coming on board. Today, Carrie and I and Kim are going to be meeting with Betsy Krem. Betsy is the Executive Director of the Women's Institute for Housing and Economic Development. She is going to be replacing Pat Rice. Pat Rice just recently retired from Operation Fuel. She's been incredible and really been the foundation to helping us think about how we're going to address the low to moderate income market segment.
Yeah,
so
the energy burden, right?
And
She taught us about the energy burden.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we are going to miss Pat, and we are excited that Betsy is joining us, being the appointed by Representative Arasimowicz, the Speaker of the House. Governor Malloy also has an appointment. His appointment will replace Moon Choi of UConn. Those of you may know Moon Choi was the provost of UConn. He is now the president of the University of Missouri system, so we wish Moon the best of luck in Missouri. Stay tuned. Next 2 to 4 weeks, this will be a huge announcement. We're giving you a little teaser here. Really, really big announcement, and when it goes out, I think this will put a stamp on the Green Bank movement and mobilizing private investment in clean energy deployment to address climate change. So stay tuned. 5-year anniversary. We just celebrated our 5-year anniversary in January. You know, in our first 5 years, we would have never thought that we would have achieved these results, but I think that comes with having a team of people at this organization who are very committed to what we're doing. And we've been able to mobilize over $1 billion of investment into our state economy. We've created thousands of jobs doing it. We've helped households and businesses lower their energy burden. And we're deploying more clean energy than has ever been done in this state before. So we are excited by that. I think my hope now is that we will be able to deploy $1 billion over a 3-year period, then potentially over a 1-year period when we start to think about what's required with the UN sustainability goals and the clean trillion or the 90 trillion, you know, whatever level is necessary. We think that the Green Bank model offers a solution to driving and mobilizing more investment into clean energy in our economies. And I think with that, before we turn to questions, I'm just going to play a 5-year anniversary video for you that we played with our legislative leaders. Pause just in case something comes up here. All right, so thank you all out there. You know, this first 5 years of the Connecticut Green Bank has been an extraordinary experience for all of us. We are all very much motivated to continue to make progress. The world is very challenging out there right now, but we think by pursuing the green bank model, we're going to see more and more deployment of clean energy in our communities, more jobs being created, more greenhouse gas emissions being reduced, more private investment. We're really, really excited to see what's happening, for example, in places like Washington, D.C. Go Mayor Bowser. Any help that we can provide, we are here for you. This is a movement, and we're a movement about mobilizing capital. This problem of climate change and creating jobs is very, very important. And working together with all of you, we are going to continue to make progress. So why don't we leave it there, and we'll turn to Joe and see if we have any questions. If folks have any questions, please send them through over on the line, and Carrie and I will respond to them.
Thanks, Brian and Carrie. Lots of great information there. So as Brian mentioned, we're happy to take any questions that any of the attendees might have. We have one question in at the moment, but for any other folks on the line, feel free to use the GoToWebinar chat box or question box to type in your question, and we'll do our best to address them with in the time we have remaining. And a reminder also that the webinar is recorded and will be distributed to all of the attendees within a few business days. So the first question we have, I'll throw it out to Brian and Carrie, is please explain how the solar industry will be self-sustaining after incentives expire.
Great. So good question. So when you think about the incentives that are going into the solar industry, right, you've got two. You've got state incentives and you've got federal incentives. So on the federal front, you've got the investment tax credit, 30% gets phased out by the end of 2022. You've got accelerated depreciation. In terms of in-state incentives, you've of course got on the residential side, the residential solar investment program incentive. You've got all the other things that go with that, net metering, sales tax exemptions, all those sorts of things. I think what I'm alluding to is that our policy to achieve 300 megawatts of residential deployment by the end of 2022 is intended to lead the industry through what's called sustained orderly development, which means that after 2022, when there are no more state incentives through the RCIP or federal tax credits, hopefully there will be great competition in the installer market. Installed costs for solar PV will be low, that consumers will just demand it. If you go back to the chart that I was showing before, you'll see that the consumer side of the equation is roughly $3 per watt. And what we've been able to do over the course of the last 5 years is reduce the overall portion of installed costs that the state provides from 40% to 10%. So we're on a path to that, which is very, very important. But secondly, when you think about the role of having consumers have access to capital to finance those improvements, Carrie talked a lot about the Smarty loan. So, you know, connecting our local households to local community banks and credit unions, you know, seeing Nutmeg offer a 15 and 20-year term, that's a big deal for an unsecured loan. Connecting our contractors to third-party financing through lease and PPA financing, we've been able to transition them to do that as well. So reducing the market's reliance on subsidies and moving it to accessing affordable capital, private capital, is where the future is. So that's what I was getting at.
All right, thanks, Brian. We have another question in, and it's I'll turn it over to Carrie. Is the Green Bank interacting with Fannie and Freddie with their energy program?
That's a great question. So on the single-family side, Bert Hunter and myself have been part of is it a formal or informal working group? I should know this. Freddie Mac has had a fairly large group of stakeholders that it has been interacting with on the energy financing front to understand what role Freddie Mac should be playing to encourage more energy upgrades within its portfolio. And that was a series of ongoing conversations and meetings across, I think, 3 or 4 different work streams. And out of that, they determined that they were going to pursue a couple of different courses of action. So that's on the single-family side for Freddie. And less so, there were less conversations on the multifamily side. On the Fannie side, we had some conversations with the multifamily team right as they were launching their green multifamily financing product, which Connecticut doesn't do a tremendous amount of the Fannie multifamily product, and it's actually a great reminder that we should probably go back and connect with the Fannie multifamily team on that product and see if there's a way that, for instance, we could connect our pre-development loan into the lenders that are active in that Fannie multifamily green mortgage product. On the single-family side, what we've tried to do is take our, they have a Fannie Mae home style energy mortgage product, and we have been talking to some of our Smarty lenders about whether or not there would be an appetite to offer that as a product. But there doesn't seem to be a lot of Fannie Mae lending going on, at least for the folks that are involved with the Smarty product to date. So I would say we should probably do more, and if folks have advice for us on how to do that better, contact me. I'd love to know, especially on the single family side, on the Fannie side, if there are better ways for us to connect into that.
Great, thanks, Carrie. So another question, and I'll toss this one over to Brian. Do you have any advanced microgrid projects, and how do you or how would you finance them?
Great question. So opportunistically is probably the answer. So we do have a microgrid program. The state's Department of Energy and Environmental Protection provides incentives for the balance of plant and planning for microgrids. We are involved in a project in Bridgeport that involves the city, a local senior center, the police station. It's a microgrid combined heat and power unit. That project really came to us from the contractor in the city. They were looking for access to capital. We were able to structure the deal with our partner KeyBank on it. Again, we don't always want to be in the structure. We just want to be in the structure enough to bring in private investment, and KeyBank was there by our side to provide the rest of the capital. But what you will see is DEEP is going to be re-releasing its microgrid RFP. You'll see more information in there, the role of the Green Bank and how we can provide capital to projects on an opportunity basis. So we have a budget set aside for it. So we're just waiting for folks to come to us, and then our finance team will figure out a way of working a deal.
Great. And a question for Carrie about some of the programs that you mentioned and potentially linking on the person asking the question on their website. Can they link to some of the programs that you talked about, things like CHAFA or Kresge or the Lime product?
Absolutely. So on our Connecticut Green Bank website, for instance, we have a multifamily landing page that lists many of our programs. So like Kresge's not up there because it's brand new and the deal isn't closed yet. That's coming. But you feel free to link to anything that's on our website. But if you want something that's more tailored to your website, get in touch with myself or anyone on the multifamily team, and we're more than happy to work with you on appropriate links or landing pages that work for you and kind of your website, and we can tailor that to make that work better for you. Absolutely, we're more than happy to do that.
All right. We have another question in here. So let's grab that. So we'll go to this one first. So is the Green Bank working on any programming for thermal technologies?
Great question. So we, over the course of the last year to year and a half, been working very closely with the Center for Business and the Environment at Yale and Helle Grunley. Helle comes to Yale as a research scientist from Norway. She administered renewable heating and cooling programs in Norway, which is has one of the largest penetrations of renewable thermal heating and cooling technologies in the world. Hela's led a study that was just released, I think, last week. We'll make it a point to follow up in our follow-up to this webinar, linking you to those studies. 2 studies that take a look at the potential for renewable heating and cooling technologies in Connecticut, the technical potential as well as the challenges that we're going to be dealing with on the demand side. So that is really going to set a foundation for how we look at this market. We're now starting to think about what we can do, and Carrie was alluding to it a little bit before on the Smarty loan side, so stay tuned. There will be ways that we can incentivize the market with financing renewable heating and cooling, so stay tuned.
Great. So I'll leave this next question for both Brian and Carrie. What's your response to the criticism that energy efficiency financing can be furnished at lower costs by local banks and that there might not be a need for the scale that a revolving loan fund can provide?
So, wow, I have a very specific reaction to that question. When I think about a revolving loan fund, I think about you have a capped amount of capital available. So, for instance, let's just play with numbers. You're going to make $5 million available, and that's your revolving loan fund. And you're going to lend out to customers $10,000 at a pop, and they're going to pay that back over time. But once you lend out the $5 million, if people haven't paid that back yet, you can't lend out more, right? So you can only lend out as much as is available in that revolving loan fund until money starts coming back in. When you think about, but the advantage is, if that's your capital, you can kind of set your rate and you can determine what rate you want to earn. When you're working with local capital, in some ways it's unlimited potential in terms of how much capital you have available to you. But your local institutions have, they have to earn a return, and they have maybe more requirements around what the interest rate is. So I think there are trade-offs. So there are 2 different ways to kind of skin the cat of making financing available in the market, 2 different tools. I wouldn't say one's right and one's wrong. I think in an environment where you need a lot of capital available to meet your policy requirements, it's a great idea to leverage as much private capital as possible. And that, to me, would lend itself towards local capital as opposed to a revolving loan fund model. Having said that, there may be segments of the market where it makes sense to do a revolving loan fund model. For instance, here at the Green Bank, our pre-development loan fund, that's a revolving loan fund model. We make some capital available for the pre-development loan, and we revolve that money. But in Smarty, we don't have $30 million of capital available for the Smarty loan product. We're using local capital through local lenders. So I think it depends on the segment of the market you're in and how much capital you need available to meet your goals. I don't know, Brian, if you have any other thoughts on that.
The only thing I would add is, like, if you can hear clearly Carrie's perspective on this. If you want further details or more follow-up, we're happy to have that conversation.
Yeah.
Carrie does this all the time.
Well, I think it depends. Like, there's no one answer. It's like, what market are you in? How much capital do you need? What's the demand?
Great. So we have another question, and I'll toss this one over to Brian. To what extent does the Green Bank see potential for small-scale hydropower in Connecticut as an addition to the state's renewable energy mix?
Excellent. So great question. I think when people here in Connecticut think of renewables or the renewable portfolios, they think of solar and wind. But if you look historically at all of New England, we have a number of small hydro dams, power plants, and we're working with a great company, New England Hydropower, to finance small hydro plants in Connecticut. Our first Meriden project is about to go online, probably within the next month. So stay tuned for that announcement with the New England Hydropower team. We're excited by that. This is a virtual net meter project where the town of Meriden is going to be taking the electricity produced from the small hydro plant over a 30-year period with an option of extending that 10 additional years, so 40 years. So think about, again, financial innovation here, power purchase agreements, lowering the energy burden, 30 years, 40 years, the life of the asset. This is a technology that the New England Hydropower team have brought over from Europe. It's very commercial over there. They're making it commercial over here, and we're excited to be working with them not only in Connecticut but throughout the region and across the country to ensure that small hydro is part of the mix, because there's little intermittency with those technologies unless you run out of water. So that may be an issue in certain parts of the country, but definitely an opportunity for Connecticut.
Great. So we have a few minutes left, so I'll take another question. Is there any plan to provide aggregation of customer-owned renewable energy credits? With the end of state incentives and the customer-borne cost of monitoring equipment and service, the Green Bank will not be getting the REC ownership. Why should a homeowner choose to monitor their RECs when there's not an easy access aggregator?
Wow, so this is like a 301 renewable energy credit question. It's a great question, and probably one Carrie and I have thought a lot about, which is, we create these environmental markets. We create these renewable portfolio standards, these cap and trade systems where you're creating a carbon offset, you're creating a renewable energy credit. What we see is that homeowners can be left behind in this market and not be able to monetize this societal value that they're creating with their investment in renewable and efficiency and all those sorts of things. So right now in our residential solar program, we've got metering systems on all these units, and aggregation is a policy innovation. The Public Utility Regulatory Authority is going to allow us to aggregate these systems. We've got revenue quality meters on them. We made a promise to Commissioner Karen and the leaders at PURA that by the end of our 300 megawatt target, it is our hope that the market will have transitioned beyond the RCIP. And that is, a part of that is that there will be intermediaries in the market that will play that role on behalf of the homeowner, connecting them to the policy value. And right now, if folks take a look at our hardware system with all the metering and the policy decisions that are coming out on aggregation, there's your blueprint. If somebody wants to create a business plan, post 300 megawatts, there's an opportunity right there for somebody to support homeowners connecting to that market. And as we get closer to that target, we'll start having more and more conversations about it because in the end, we want the private sector to be doing this. We're just a facilitator.
It's like you're an incubator. You're like throwing out business ideas there, Brian, to the market. I love it.
Why not?
All right, and the last question of the morning, and I'll toss it to Carrie, about the Green Bank's interest in geothermal and what we're doing in that industry.
Hey, geothermal for residential, Smarty can finance anything that saves energy or generates clean energy. So, I probably neglected to mention this. In our special offer, we have a 2.99 heat pump technology special offer. So geothermal is a heat pump technology, so 5, 7, 10-year term, 2.99% rate is available for geothermal. Now, if you need a longer rate, or a longer term rather, and you want to maybe try out nutmeg and get that 15 or 20-year term and see if that works, that won't be at 2.99%. That's at the higher rate. And we actually, Joe, and you and I haven't done the math to see what would the differential be in the loan, what that would look like. But yeah, we can finance geothermal. We love it, and you're going to see again you're going to see some more aggressive pricing on heat pump technologies in the coming 4 to 6 weeks.
Cool. All right, so I think that's probably it, Joe. Thank you, everyone, for those questions and comments, but I'll turn it over to Joe for any final concluding remarks.
Sure. Yeah, so thank you again to Brian and Carrie, and most importantly, thank you to everyone for joining. We will send these slides around to anyone who's registered, the slides and the audio recording hopefully within the next week. And our next quarterly informational webinar will be sometime in the summer, in the June or July time frame. So we'll come to you live from the beach in a couple of months. So we look forward to speaking with you then. And until then, take care, everyone, and we'll talk to you all soon. Have a great day.